Good morning, everyone. At least it's very early morning here, still dark outside. I didn't know if we was going to do this or not. I'll get to this in just a second. But we're going to minister on the great letter writer. Do you ever get a letter? This is not the kind of letter that you want to be getting. I'm going to read 2 Kings chapter 18, and we're actually going to start with verse 28 and go through 32. That's a little bit longer than I intended to read, but as I sat down here, I thought I want to go ahead and read that entire part. Then Rabshakeh, which was the captain of the guard of the Syrian army, Then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language, and spake, saying, Hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus saith the king, Let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you out of his hand. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, The Lord will surely deliver us, and this city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, Make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and then eat ye every man of his own vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink ye every one the waters of his cistern, until I come take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of oil, olive, and of honey, that ye may live and not die. And hearken not unto Hezekiah when he persuadeth you, saying, The Lord will deliver us. You ever get a letter? I want to start out actually speaking this morning by thanking those of you that have been praying for me. I appreciate that. I said I wasn't sure if we were going to do this. The physical body is very, very weak. I would say I'm probably at about 75-80% at this point in time. But that is a whole lot better than I was yesterday. Yesterday I would have given you about a 5%, I think. It was one of those days that I was kind of wishing to die. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation or not. This actually goes along with the message, so don't think that I'm whining. This actually goes along with the message. We're not sure exactly what's going on, but there's multiple things happening. And just the week has been just not feeling well at all. I really did not think that I would be able to sit behind the camera and do this. And I don't know. I'm just judging as I go whether this is worthwhile to put this message on to you or not, because I don't want to put a message that's so weak that it doesn't do any good. But, you know, the devil may be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, letter writers in the entirety of time. He is so great of sending things, and he's got multiple different types of letters that he sends. But one of the types of letters, one of his greatest tricks is to paint this fantastic picture for you of what your life could be like if you would just make a deal with him. Scripture gives us such a clear, vivid picture of that kind of an attitude when Israel and King Hezekiah were confronted by this evil messenger, Rabshakeh, sent from the king of Assyria. And he is saying to them, if you will just make a deal with the king of Assyria, you will be able to continue to eat and drink on your own land. And then eventually I will come and get you and take you to a land that is much like your land, and you will live in pleasure. All you got to do is just bring me a present and make a agreement to me. And that's how slick the devil is. Now, let me tell you, that was a straight out lie. Assyria had slaughtered nations. They had slaughtered the women and the children. They had no intentions of making peace. We do this today in America. We're trying to make peace with people that have no desire at all to be at peace with us. Their only goal is the destruction of our way of life. And we're out trying to say, well, how can we get along with you? How can we make peace with you? You can't make peace with a terrorist. You can't. They have no interest in making peace with you. And it's the same way. Let's move it into the spiritual realm. It's the same way in the spiritual realm. That's why so many times I think that you saw Jesus when he told people something and they got upset at him and they walked away. Jesus didn't go after them trying to make peace with them. It's like, you go ahead and you do what you want to do. That seems cold to so many people. But these people had no intention of making peace with Israel and letting them eat from their land or letting them eat from any land. But the devil is a crooked salesman. Every compromise that you make in your walk with Jesus is the same thing as going out to the enemy. Let me say that to you again. Every compromise that you make in your walk with Jesus is the same as going out to the enemy, of making a pact with him, of saying, well, I'm going to try to get along with you, but I will still be a Christian because everything is grace. And so I don't have to worry about my sin or my compromise. No, every time you do that, you are making a pact with the enemy. So what do when you are confronted with a letter from the devil? Hezekiah, if you read on in those verses, I love this story. I really do. Hezekiah doesn't respond back to Rabshakeh at all. He doesn't try to send a message to the king of Assyria. He takes the letter that has been sent to him and he spreads it out on the altar of the Lord and then prays and seeks the Lord. Don't try to reason with the devil. Don't try to reason with him. He's not interested in making peace with you. He has come to steal and to kill and to destroy. That's his only purpose. Don't try to figure out how you can become so smart that you will outsmart him, because let me promise you something. I don't care how much you stomp around. I'll get to more of that in a second. I don't care how much you stomp around and declare your victory. You're not smarter than the devil. He's got 6,000 years of experience of deceiving people. He took down Adam and Eve in an absolutely perfect garden. He took down Judas, who had followed Jesus and watched the miracles that Jesus had done. He took down Peter, who had declared, I will never depart from you no matter what. You see it over and over again. So don't make the first mistake and think that you are smart enough to reason with the devil. Hold your silence. Take it to the Lord. The people in this passage were told, as they're facing Rabshakeh and listening to all of these false promises, they are told, Hezekiah has commanded you, don't speak back. Don't say a word. Stay absolutely silent. Lord, he hasn't said this to us. He said this to you. The Lord will not deliver you, Rabshakeh said. And Hezekiah says, okay, Lord, there it is. And then I love, Hezekiah goes to bed after he lays this letter out. I think, oh my word, I would be up tossing and turning and trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? How am I going to deal with this? He goes to bed. It's like, God, this is yours. Satan is writing so many letters to me right now, personally, ministry-wise, doing everything that he can to try to bring discouragement. And there's days that I'm discouraged. Don't want me to admit that to you? Well, I know my transparency and realness doesn't go over real well. And then the sickness comes. And boy, I'm battling right now, guys, so forgive me. Then the sickness comes. And physical weakness. Do you think the devil goes away and stops bothering you and says, well, I'll wait till he feels better? That's when he really unloads. Do some of you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you do. And again, I say to the ones that say, well, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm not talking to you. Why don't you just shut off the video? I'm not talking to you. Some of you have been getting serious letters from the devil trying to drag you down. And sometimes, folks, we sit and try to figure out how we need to respond to those letters. And Hezekiah does the right thing with the letter from the king of Assyria. Here it is, Lord. He says you're not going to deliver us. Here it is. Now it's yours. Now I'm going to go rest. You take care of it. God's response to the devil's letter is to read it and laugh. Make sure that you get that. God's response to the devil's letter is to read it and laugh. In other words, God takes personally what the devil says to his people. This is God's response, basically paraphrased. Devil, you did not send that letter to my child. You sent it to me, for whom you have reproached and blasphemed, against whom you have raised your voice and lifted up your eyes on high, against the Holy One of Israel. He who touches the apple of God's eye touches God. God says his loved ones are safe and the devil cannot harm them. You can read that in 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 32 to 34. See, Jesus, and this was the same type of an attitude. Jesus received the same thing in the New Testament. I will give you all of the kingdoms of the earth. I will take care of your hunger. Just jump and prove to these people who you are. You deserve that. And I'm not going to make you go through the cross and the suffering and the beating and the whipping and all of that like your father is. Because God's not going to take care of you, Jesus. I will. All you've got to do is just bow down and worship me, and I will give you all of these kingdoms with nothing else. See, the devil will promise you the gold mine. He'll promise all of the answers that you need, and he will do it so subtly you won't even realize that it's him. In Adam and Eve, in the Garden of Eden, what does he say to them? You won't die. You won't die. You're going to be like gods. That's why God's concerned about this. He's not concerned about your well-being. He's concerned about you being equal to him. Here's the promise. I'm going to make life so much better for you. That's what Satan says. I'm going to make life so... That's his favorite letter. If you don't listen to him, if you don't obey him, then the threats come. And he's good at those too. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you better bow down to that idol, or I'm going to throw you into a fiery furnace and you're going to burn alive. Or Daniel, you better bow down and pray to that king, or I'm going to throw you into a lion's den and you're going to be ripped to pieces by some of the most fierce animals in the world. Elijah had called down fire from heaven, and Satan sends him a letter through Jezebel and says, I'm going to get you. See, he's been doing it. He's been doing it. And folks, it's time for us to recognize this is coming from him. Oh, America, what are you going to do? You're in the middle of the most terrible situation you've ever seen. Everything is a mess. There's division and destruction. You can't count on the government. You shouldn't have ever been counting on the government. If you're counting on the government, you're a fool. Oh yeah, I know, I probably just made lots of people angry at me. If your passion is politics, you're wasting your time. And believe me, I have wasted my time for years. But we lay out the letter before our Lord. They aren't saying this to me. They are saying this to you. And God laughs. You think God is intimidated by Washington, D.C. and the IRS and the FBI and the CIA and the DHS and the whatever else there is? You think God is intimidated? He laughs. Who do you think you are blaspheming? Who do you think you are speaking against? Devil, you can write all the letters that you want to write. We used to have a song that we would sing. It was one of the funnest songs. It's very upbeat. It's very short. And we would do that in my first church that I was in. I used to laugh because it was fun to be in the basement of the church and hear the church singing this upstairs, because they just sounded like they were coming through the floor. I command you, Satan, in the name of the Lord, to pick up your weapons and flee. For the Lord has given me authority to stomp all over thee. And when we would get to the stomp all over thee, everybody in the church was just stomping with everything inside of them. Did that do us any good? Probably not in the spiritual realm, but boy, it sure made you feel better. Some days I feel like I can stomp him. Some days I feel like that I'm ready to go to battle. Just bring it on, Satan. Just bring it on. I'm ready to face you. And other days, I'm very, very weak. Can you associate with that? Sometimes it's physically, sometimes it's emotionally, sometimes it's spiritually, sometimes it's all three. Sometimes those letters come and it's like, Lord, I don't know how to deal with this. So I'll lay the letter on the altar and I'll go rest while you see to this. Don't underestimate the Lord's love for you. If you are His, then you are the apple of His eye. Just like Israel was the apple of His eye, we as the Christians are grafted into the vine, and we are the apple of His eye as well, not replacing Israel, but becoming a part of that children of God. And when the devil threatens you, he's threatening God. And God laughs. Now, does that mean that everything is going to go right and fall into place? Oh, don't misinterpret what I'm saying in this message. I'm not saying that at all. Sometimes you're laying in the bed feeling sicker than you've been for a long time, saying, God, please just stop this. And you continue to be sick. And my sickness will most likely go away. Some of you are facing sicknesses that may bring your mortality. The letters aren't funny to us. The letters are very, very real. And while the Warrior Sword ministry is just exploding, the devil's doing everything that he can to bring it down. And guess how he's doing that? He's sending letters to me. My friends, can I take this message that I really never intended to bring to you and say to you, take the letters that the devil is writing to you, lay them on the altar, and don't pick them back up. Don't pick them back up for you to deal with. Lay them on the altar and say, God, He said this to you. You deal with it. And I promise you, God laughs. Because no matter what happens, no matter what's coming, no matter what you face, no matter what you deal with, God knows He's the one in charge. And for Satan to touch you, he's going to first have to touch God. And let me tell you, and I'm sorry that I went a little bit longer and I need to close this, but let me tell you something. That is my peace and my hope. I know I'm not big enough to take down Satan. I know that I'm not smart enough to outsmart Satan, but I know the one that is. And I say that to Satan, if you're going to get to me, you're going to have to go through him first. And you can't do that. The entire army of Assyria was destroyed without Israel firing a shot, because God is the God of gods and the King of kings and the Lord of lords. Turn to Him today. I hope in my weakness this message was a blessing to you.